Welcome, everybody. I'm Chris and I'm thrilled to announce today's episode of Amplify Your Brand, the live stream with the ultimate building powerful brands in today's digital age. So obviously with my friend and fellow colleague there, Simao, on the screen, we're here to share expertise and help you take your brand to the next level. So whether you're an entrepreneur, a business owner, a marketing professional, someone tinkering around with a personal brand, this live stream is packed with practical insights and strategies that will help you amplify your brand and stand out in that digital landscape. So please get ready, take some notes, take what we do today into action, because by the end of this live stream, you have a clear roadmap of building a brand that truly resonates with your target audience. So thank you for joining us again today, and let's find another way to amplify your brand. And today, I'm really excited about what we're going to talk about, because it's something that's not a trend. It's something that just should be happening, but it's become a trend. And so what we're going to talk about today is something that you should do, should have already been doing, but we're just going to emphasize why it's important to do what we're going to do. And the topic we're talking about today, Sim, is keeping it real. Authenticity in brand communication, the power of authenticity in brand communication and what it means for your business. And I guess, Sim, I'll just give you the floor for a little bit just to give your insights on what you think this is all about.
This is actually a build-up, a natural build-up of everything we've done up to this point. We've talked about missions before. We've talked about values and creating a purpose-based approach to the brand. And last week we talked about personal branding. Well, here we are, keeping it real. Authenticity is pretty much everything these days. And with the availability that online provides to everybody, it's not hard to search somebody up, some business up, and find what we either need to validate the presence and doing business with that brand, or likewise on the other side of that spectrum, find holes with which we don't agree or that indicate to us a lack of trust. So stay tuned, because today is going to be an interesting one on the topic of authenticity.
Yes, so let's get into what it's all about. And I guess one of the things we'll touch on and bring on that screen is a lot of what we talk today is about building on our P8 branding program. We've spent over 20 years developing and upgrading our branding on identity framework. It encompasses 8 critical sections of the brand, which we call the 8 Ps. It's a pretty easy to understand implementing program that every business can use to amplify their brand. And today I'm jumping off the screen to talk about this, that even though we're talking about authenticity, which is based on all the other ones, ultimately this becomes a promotional tool that you should be putting into everything that you're doing in your everyday. So why do we do it? Well, look, in today's fast-paced and ever-evolving marketplace, authenticity is becoming a central part of a brand strategy. If you're a consumer, it's no longer just to prefer it. They want to demand that the brand has a transparent and genuine approach in their communication. The shift is more than a trend. It's a fundamental change in how brands must engage with their audience to succeed. Do you want to talk through that bit there, Sim?
I think it's just a repetition of what we just mentioned. It shouldn't be a trend. This should have been in place. And interestingly enough, the companies, the businesses that have not put it in place are finding new obstacles and struggles. And they have to resort to cleaning up campaigns, to rebrands that are surface level of skin, the sort of reactionary measures that wouldn't require to be implemented if the groundwork had been done up to this point.
Yeah, and look, we talked about this in a previous episode, where there used to be just 4 mediums that people could control, and the big brands knew that if they did screw up on something, they could just put some head out there on the radio, on the newspaper, on the TV, and say exactly what they wanted to say. And enough people would hear that, and then word of mouth would do the rest, and then they'd just get back on with what they were doing, and life would be good. But these days, it's this ever-present 24/7 thing called social media and online, and it is changing how that used to be managed and how it is managed. So, and as you said earlier, people can do a quick search. That's something that people didn't have at their fingertips. And again, people had to have computers in the early noughties. So that was, again, another little hurdle that people had to get over. But once this little device became your thing that you just carried around with you everywhere, it was in your pocket. Instead of like having that argument with somebody about, oh, that brand did this or that company did that. And then someone go, no, they didn't. They did this and that. And then they go, hang on a second, just Google it. There it is. And it's like, okay, yeah, maybe you're right. Now, we have touched on the fact that AI and a lot of algorithms these days can be manipulated. So there's not everything you look on Google is true, but Google are pretty good at bringing up the truth in the fact that they'll find the right information that you need to find. A Facebook scenario is maybe a little bit different. That may be based on your algorithm. That might tell you something you want to hear because you want to be reinforced with what you want to hear. But in general, Google is generally as black and white when it comes to its information. It wants to give the right information. It's not as spooky when it comes to that. Generally, I'll say that as a generalization. It still has its bias, but Facebook, we know, can alter your world just by telling you what you want to hear. So be mindful of that.
Or fact check the information that is presented.
Yeah, that's right. So look, why does authenticity matter? Well, in an age where consumers are bombarded with advertisement, brand messages, and standing out, it requires to be more clever than a slogan or an eye-catching visual. As much as we love a good old slogan and an eye-catching visual, they need to be better than that. So in today's consumers favor the brand that showcases the human side of their business, offering transparency in their operation values and intentions. And I think that's, again, just coming back to what we were talking about. It's not just what you put out there. It's what people see and breathe, because even your employees, your clientele, the way you treat them, their experiences, all these things, as I said, used to be one-to-one relationships. It's now a one-to-many because online gives you that volume to say, and I'm not talking about just one Google review here. We're talking about like hundreds of people or tens of people or lots of people saying the same thing in forums, on Facebook posts, in ways where you just go, hang on, if they're saying it, maybe it's true, or maybe that's real, or maybe I should look at that because, I'm seeing it's being seen more than once.
Absolutely. The narrative has had more sides to it. It is possible to find a narrative fragmented into different perspectives in different sides of online. That's the power of online, and the need for authentic communication to happen, not to hide it, but to be transparent about why you do what it is that you do. Because as a business owner, you will have to make some decisions, and probably not all of your audience will agree with those decisions. But as long as you have a rationale and you are forthcoming, transparent, and authentic about it, is really what consumers, we on this side, like to value and reward. The fact that there are so many ways of finding holes on the cheese, like you said, Chris, it's not just on Facebook. The culture of the company somehow sweats outside at some point. There is a website, I think it's called Glassdoor, which is basically employees' reviews of their previous employers, where thing comes out. On online forums, discussions on WhatsApp, Telegram, there's no shortage of approaching a so-called narrative and try to prove it, dismantle it, or validate it in some way, shape, or form, which comes with many benefits, but also comes with a lot of challenges.
Yeah, exactly. And we're not talking about, again, it's not about being authentic to lie and fake and make it. It's being authentic because it's real, it's true, it's who you are. And
right.
You need to be unashamedly proud of that, whatever that is, your thing is. And just live and die by that sword. That's what we're trying to get at here, because a lot of companies, and we've spoken about many examples in previous episodes of clients just jumping on a trend and going with it. Being authentic, you can't hide it. You have to be who you are. Even I'll bring up Mr. Armstrong, famous bike rider that did it for decades for us, and we all thought he was an amazing person, but eventually the truth came out.
Yeah.
Behind
the official, the official side of it, and through
because behind the scenes, all the bike riders knew what was going on. Then all of a sudden, all the officials knew what was going on. But as soon as it got into the media and the public domain, the truth came out, and he couldn't hide anymore. And he still denied it. But But I'm trying to get at what in this scenario is that if you're authentic, and when it hits the fan, you're going to be able to hold strong because you're going to go, well, look, that's my principles. That's what I stand for. I'm not going to alter
I've
on
never
this.
tried to hide this. This is actually what I've said from the get, that I would be standing for. And then you don't have to juggle truths. You don't have to juggle versions, because it's just easier and a lot more sustainable to really fall on what you are, who you are, and what you stand for. And
yeah, and we've spoken about this with Elon Musk a few times. There's been many times over the last decade where we thought he's crazy. We've just honestly gone, what the hell are you on? And then a year later, 2 years later, 3 years later, whatever happens, we go, oh, that's why he was acting like that, because he already knew this stuff. But he hasn't had to change his way or his behavior because he believed in it, knew what was going on, and stuck true to that pathway he was going for. And it's generally worked out for him in most cases. I'm not saying he's perfect. There's no perfect, but what I'm saying is that it's generally been because he's so consistent in that opinion and his pathway. When it happens, you just go, oh, you got to trust the guy now. He seems to know what he's talking about. So in most cases, I'll say, not an open slather there, but it's there. So let's get back to it. So authentic interactions are the key to building lasting trust and credibility with your audience. I think we've just touched on that. Like, we're not talking about just doing something for the hell of it. It's because it's something that you've sat down with your brand and you've looked at it and gone, we need to communicate this way. We need to appear here. We need to look this way, because if we do these things consistently in that way, we will attract more of what we want, and people will start to believe in our narrative, whatever that narrative is. Go, Sim.
I was just going to add, by consequence, everything you said, you will attract, yes, but not because you want to attract. It's a consequence of you being true to those very principles.
Yeah. So what we're going to get into today is just 3 things that we want you to take away to deliver on authenticity and being real. We're going to talk about transparency, how it builds trust. We're going to talk about how you build genuine connection to foster loyalty. And we're going to talk about how you, if you can, showcase the humanity of your brand, because most people want to buy from a brand that feels like it's your uncle, your next door neighbor, your best friend. And it's always the easiest way to take that. All of us have got that friend that we just don't take opinions of because we just know that they've just got some crazy ideas, but they're still good friends. But you just know when it comes to opinions, maybe don't take it too seriously. But there's people in our lives we trust, we go to, we know, like, if they give us advice, it's probably going to be good advice. And there's reasons why you emotionally connect to that person. When it comes to branding, it's absolutely no different. It's you buy and trust because you want an experience that's consistently given to you from that brand, and that's why you do it, and you buy from it. So you've got to look at your own business and your brand the same way and go, how can we do this consistently and based on things that we're going to get into later, that deliver this in a way that authenticity becomes something that's just a natural part of your business. Do you want to talk about anything regarding those topics?
I'm going to jump into the section where we talk about showcasing humanity.
Yeah, cool. So look, transparency, let's talk about the transparency builds trust part. So we're talking about here open communication about your processes, your successes, and including failures. It's really important to understand that nobody expects you to be successful all the time. So if you can get out there and share behind the scenes insights that engage and educate your audience on what you're doing behind the scenes, if you can be honest about challenges your business is going through and how you've addressed those, that will help people build trust with what you're doing. And then if you have a success, celebrate it and transparently put it out there to foster a positive brand image. These things aren't rocket science, but they're just things that people forget to do. Like,
yes, they are, and they happen on both sides of the spectrum, I would call it, because it's almost frowned upon in some cultures, and depending on the person's own bringing up and education, that you don't want to brag about what you're good at. Sometimes that underlying culture undermines the success of a company because you're not making it public to the world. Whereas I think the American culture is really good at this. They celebrate, they're not ashamed of it, and they foster it. They've just that's where the all the hoopla comes and the fireworks. They're exceptionally good at recognizing merit and then making a big fuss about it because that's it's worthy of. And likewise, being honest about those challenges that you felt along the way, and especially when you were going through them, it kind of created a story, didn't it? It kind of left people wondering, oh man, I don't know if this person or this company is going to make it past this rough patch, this inflation period we're going through, and kind of opening the window and putting glimpses of what is truly happening out there. It creates an ongoing trust, especially in the future, because people will have seen that they were open throughout the process. They created that narrative, which is authentic. Nevertheless, it put the doubt, it put some friction in the story that they're building so that when they get to success, people acknowledge they came from a place where it wasn't guaranteed, where they didn't know where they were going to get their next dollar or their next client or whatever the story is, personal brand versus business brands, and they actually made it to the other side, which again plays to the bringing up in the mindset of some of us. And I know that I felt this in myself, and when I jumped over my own fears, I realized that there's an entire world of the other side of this, getting in front of a camera, speaking to the world. There are many people who still feel very shy, very afraid of this little peeping hole that is creating an amplification of us into the world. And fear takes the best of them. Well, for business purposes today, for brand building today, that is a problem. That is a hurdle. And I'm not saying you shouldn't be fearful. I'm saying when you reveal that you are cautious about it, and when you reveal vulnerability, interestingly enough, this is where our humanity comes in. This is where our connection comes in, is that when you reveal that you're not sure and you're actually putting out the vulnerability in you, you will be creating a lot more authentic connection.
Is it Renee Brown?
Yes, very good example. Yes.
And that's one of the most watched TEDx episodes ever. And she made a whole business about that now around vulnerability and and it came from literally a vulnerable place in her life when she was literally on a plane, having no idea what to talk about. So she just got up on stage and talked about that vulnerability that led to what is now a very, very famous moment. So, you don't all have to have a million, followers to have this moment. You can have your own clientele and just talk through it. You'd be surprised if you reach out to them and tell them some of the challenges you're going through, how many might buy from you more because they want to help you out, or they might tell others about you because they want to see you succeed because they've had a good experience and they didn't realize that you were actually going through something. So, and look, with mental health and a whole bunch of other things now, they're in places now that we've never been before, where it's not a weakness anymore. It's a strength to be open about these things and be clear on why you're going through what you're going through. So just be mindful of what your business is and what your moment could be, that you can either tell the world about and brag about it in a way that's authentic and not just boasting and arrogant. You want it to come across as, you're really enjoying the moment and celebrating it. And then the opposite, where you're having some, failures that really aren't going so well, but you've either show how you overcame it or what you're doing to go through it, so you can give them guidance and direction on where you're going. Then you make it. There's been many times I've had a good idea and I haven't been able to work out how to get it off the ground. I've spoken to somebody and then they've given me an idea, a nudge or a push or a contact or something like that. And that's led to the idea becoming something. But it would never have happened if I just left it in my head and didn't talk about it or try to get it out there as a thing. So you keep that in mind for yourself. So we'll move on to the next slide, which is also still on transparency, building trust, which is the benefits of being forthright and honest, which is what we just talked about. Honesty fosters a sense of reliability and integrity. Customers appreciate and remember brands that are straightforward. And if you're authentic in the communication, can lead to higher customer retention. There are some brands we know right now that if McDonald's came out today and said they've got the healthiest meal on the planet, you know they're lying straight away, right? And even to the point now where we know that they've done some crazy things in the past where they've called it Australian beef, and we thought that was real meat. But no, it was a brand called Australian beef with the word beef in it, right? So there are things that you've just got to take for granted that some brands have already done that mistrust, and we can't, honestly trust everything that they say. You've got to take it with a grain of salt. That's what we're talking about when it goes the wrong way. If you do it the right way, then you're going to avoid all that kind of mistrust that comes with it. Now, we're not saying people won't buy McDonald's, because that's just people will still buy it. But what we're saying is that if they say something is real meat or real beef or whatever, you're going to question whether they're meaning that these days. But there was a period where you trusted it, but you don't now. With other brands or your brand, even if you're a small accounting firm, a baker, whatever the case be, you still got that same responsibility to talk about your product and what's so unique about it and what ingredients are in it and whatever your point of difference is, and making sure that it is something you can back it up. Don't just say that you're sugar-free and then find out that, you're not a sugar-free product. That's not what we want you to do. We want you to get out there and brag about it.
This opens up a can of worms right there with the sugar-free, because it reminds me of the poultry industry and what is considered cage-free, what is considered organic, and all of that stuff. And some of us will have watched documentaries that actually explain what organic means and what cage-free means, and let's not get into that today. But what I'm trying to leave a tip on is to use the same reference systems, the same language that your audience uses, so that you come across as much more direct than trying to spin off something into what it isn't. The authentic Australian beef that McDonald's incurred in is a clear manipulation of the language that we're used to associating beef with actual meat. If a brand is called beef, that is a bit of a distortion of reality, especially if it's not going to consist of meat. So the tip on this one is to use the same language. What is close to the audience of a brand, use the same referential systems and languages that this audience is used to being around.
Yep, that's right. So just make sure you really, really know your market and understand that truth will always come out in the way you go about doing what you do. So you've got to be, as I said, straightforward, and it'll help you have higher customisation. So now we're going to move on to the second point, which is genuine connection fosters loyalty. So the impact of real stories and experiences. We love working with our customers to find the real stories that they experience, to humanize their brand. We look at ways how the authentic stories that they build can resonate more deeply with the audience than a scripted message. And any personal experiences they can demonstrate that their brand and values and missions. We really love working with those clients to pull those stories out of them and then put them into their marketing and advertising and brand, whether it be even just visual elements that might come to work with the brand that they've got in place, or the stories. I work with a number of small businesses, and they're all about the product, right? So they'll go, we've got the best cake or whatever it is. And I'll go, okay, people will buy the cake because you tell it's an amazing cake. But I'll tell you what, they'll buy more of that cake if you tell me what went into it and what love went into it and how the process is and how many hours were spent behind the scenes to actually get that cake to sit there on the whatever it is and look so great. They're more interested in how it got their story than actually it's there. Because for some reason, if you tell that story, when someone bites into that cake, they'll have an experience in their mouth that they wouldn't have had if they just bought it as a cake, right?
Yes.
It's one of those things. It's just, if you told people that you spent this much hours doing whatever to that cake and you went out to some rainforest and found this particular nut that sits inside that cake.
Yeah.
They can have a better experience.
Very different. Very different. Exactly. And all of a sudden it justifies charging a bit of a premium for that as well. So the importance of including these authentic parts into the brand story that create that ability to create the connection where people see themselves or recognize the effort or know what went behind what they're grabbing or the holding in their hand and consuming makes a huge difference. Um, there's another example that we came across somewhat recently. One of our clients, who's a very famous accountant, he's a speaker and whatnot. I never would have guessed that through his speaks on stage or through his social media presence, that his backstory was actually what it is. The reason why he went into accounting and created such a successful business and develop and helps develop other businesses to the point of being highly profitable is his backstory. His backstory ties with childhood lived in poverty, where he was spending a lot of time with his grandparents, and the grandparents could afford certain things. And at some point, he realized he wanted to never experience that again, and be able to extend to his family what his family couldn't extend to him.
Yeah.
So that little shift makes a huge difference from dealing with numbers, sheets, spreadsheets, and hard facts versus injecting some humanity and authenticity in it. So this is, again, a little tip on looking at your own path, your humanity side of why you went into business. And I guarantee you'll find something that goes way beyond creating income. It's not that, it's something deeper.
Yeah, and in that example, if you're working with an accountant like that who's had that background, you're going to go to him. Well, he's been where I am. He knows how to be successful.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So he gets me is kind of what I'm trying to get at, right? So,
correct.
Or another aspect of that is that someone might look at him and go, well, look, you've been where I am now, and I want to get where you are. How do we get there? Because you clearly know how to get there. You're doing it, right? So
yeah, and you will listen to that accountant. Absolutely.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. So another way to go about it is, like what we've touched on, finding that emotional connection through authentic communication. So if you can find ways to create a strong emotional bond with the audience, if you've got ways to get the consumer to be more likely to support your brand because they've found that way to feel emotionally connected to it. And then finally, if you can find that emotional connection, can lead to increased word of mouth referrals. So with just that example we've talked about, that accountant now, when he works with clients and they've got that backstory, and then he gets them to be successful because he's taken them to where they need to go, they're going to tell others and go, okay, look, guys, I had $10 in my bank account and I had debt over my head. And I was like, but then I started working with him and he slowly found ways and strategies for me to save $1 here, $1 there. And I'm now buying a house, right? The person you're talking to is going to go, wow, they're obviously going to skim over that. It took me 3 years or it took me 7 years to get here, right? But
yes.
The thing is that they got there, and those kind of stories do the selling for you. And then if you can use that story to tell others, then you're going to find that emotional connection where someone else is going, I'm at rock bottom too. I think I can come out of this if you just show me how, because I want to be that guy or I want to be you. It really will resonate with your audience, and you'll find you'll attract more of these people. Now, obviously, not everybody that's in those places is going to want to come out of them. You can't help. You can lead the horse to water, but not everyone's ready to drink. We understand those scenarios, but the simple fact is, if you've got a great story, you know how to deliver. Go out and tell that story, because you'll resonate with others, because they want to know that you just didn't happen to wake up one morning so beautiful and rich and successful, and the Lamborghini just happened to just drive into my driveway. It just happened.
Yep.
You got to tell the story of how you got there. So let's get into the next part about this. So let's talk about building a loyal customer base. Loyal customers are more likely to become brand advocates, and the real thing about brand advocates is that they're out there selling your story the way you want it to be sold, and that authenticity in that increases the customer retention. And then obviously, if you're getting loyal customer base, it's more forgiving and supportive during the tough times. I think that's the key one to point out there, right? Is if you're having tough times, those, like we touched on earlier, those loyal customers, the ones that really, really believe in you, won't judge you. They'll be like the girlfriend that loves you or the boyfriend that loves you. Like, they're just going to forgive all your differences, and and go with you and just trust that you're going to come out of it and give you the support you need. So think about your situation where if you can be truly authentic, you've got a loyal customer base, reach out to them, because I'm sure if you talk to them as your friend or as your fellow colleague, and that you've really appreciated their business, and that if you couldn't have got to where you're going without them, I'm sure you'll get more business from these people, because they'll feel like they've been appreciated, they've been noticed, they've been understood. And if you go about it that way, you're going to have a way where your brand is going to go further. As we touched on earlier, you still can't do this just for the fun of it. You can't just say that because you want to say it, because you know that's how they're going to feel. You've got to know that they already feel that way and that you are delivering on what you've already done. So don't go out there and do this if you're having a bad experience or you've let down your customers, unless, of course, you've let them down, but you've got a solution. You've got the next step, what you're going to do to repair it or make up for it or do whatever the case be. That's the key to that part of that conversation. So many times politicians are like brutal at this. They will say it because it's what they need to say.
It's what the polls showed better performance with.
Yeah. So,
kissing babies doesn't happen because they love babies.
No. Hey, but what I want to highlight here is that everything we're talking about today is not attached to politics, because we know where that goes.
That's it.
What we're talking about here is business situations where your business like lives and dies on its credibility and its authenticity. If that authenticity is not there and it's not real, it's going to be quickly undone. So you need to make sure whatever you're putting out there is going to be able to be backed up and delivered on and consistently seen as you going in that direction. It doesn't need to be perfect either, by the way. It just needs to be shown that you're trying, that you're going about it the right way, and it's being seen consistently as a step forward, not as falling into old habits or not delivering on what you talked about. Yes, Sim.
That's it. That's it. Let's go into the next one.
Yeah, which I think is going to head into your humanity side of things. It is. So, look, let's get into showcasing humanity. So, look, you buy from a brand, but behind the brand is humans, right? So, introduce your team and their stories and what they're about. Show behind the scenes of the content that you can use to humanize, and look, personalize your communication to reflect your brand's personality. I work with a lot of local businesses, and some of the best assets of their business is the people.
Brilliant.
I
love it.
It's not the amazing product, but like it's the delivery of the product. And sometimes, like we work with a carpet company. They do all these amazing things. They've got all these amazing technology with carpets that they install and do what they do. But the constant theme that we get back from the client and its customers is that they love working with the team, right?
That's a perfect description. I come from Portugal. I come from the south of Portugal, a very small, beautiful place called Albufeira. I've got a bunch of friends who work in hospitality, tourist, seasonal work, and one of them happens to be an entrepreneur. He came into business owning because he built himself up to that. He's a bit of a legend among us. We love him to death, obviously, and I just the smile is overcoming me because I think of him and I laugh automatically. He's that funny. This guy, he created his own Jeep tour company, and he will post on his page, on his business page, a photo of him taking tourists out, and it gets a fair amount of likes. Let's say 10, 20, 15, whatever the case is. He does that on his personal profile, and people just connect with him because everybody knows Peep. That's his name, what we call him. And he will get 180 likes, no problem. And it's the human side, it's the personal side that he is showing the world. If he's pulling out a selfie on the steering wheel of a Jeep while the tourists sit in the back, because it's not a faceless kind of entity. It's him, and people know him, and they know his story. We know his story and connect with it, and have been privy to it throughout the years. So there's something in this personal branding within the business brand. And again, don't use it just because of business. It's a complement to business. And authenticity being the topic today is where we want to emphasize that people that sit under and behind the brand are your real assets.
That's
So
right.
if you want to do social media through bringing out the particularities and the isms of your staff, so be it. Try that and see what is going to come out. You might turn one staff member into a local hero because now he's been seen online. I
Yeah.
remember a few years back.
Yeah.
Even with my brother-in-law,
Yeah.
for my wife's and my brother-in-law's fitness equipment business, I took a shot of him holding a wrench kind of sideways. And when we put out the flyers, he started getting calls from friends, from relatives, and from suppliers the next week because they were all laughing at how cool he looked with his pose that was slapped on the flyer front page.
Yeah.
So all of these things speak to the humanity and the need to personalize your brand via the people.
I work with a co-working space company, and I constantly remind this co-working space that it's the people that they bring into that co-working space are the actual product, even though they've got these really fancy offices and fancy technology,
Premises,
really cool open spaces and lovely furniture and all these amazing things that you can brag about, which we do post about a lot because the I guess the eye candy is there. But what comes with the eye candy and has the most hits and likes and forwards and comments on is when I put a human that's in the space doing something, right? They could be doing anything. It doesn't really matter. I think they did a fire drill recently and that got them like hundreds of clicks, right? Now, the reason it got hundreds of clicks is in the photo is, you know, Roger, Bob, Harry, Sally wearing a vest. And, you know, this is a co-working space or an accountant company. And if they're in a red vest with a helmet on, it's like, hang on a second, that's not what accountants do, or that's not what a co-working space does. But it shows the human side of it, and then being a safety officer and whatever. And it got the comments going and referrals and got the algorithm going and it got the likes and things. And then follow that up with a more serious post. And all of a sudden you've got that awareness. And now you've got the post that follows, which is like, well, why don't you join us? And it works. So just think about how you can do that in your local business. What can you do that will show the human side of your team? Another thing is community involvement and social causes. So is there things you can participate in a community event, support a local cause? Is there a way you can align your brand with any social cause that reflects your brand values? Showcasing your effort and impact on these can build a really positive brand image. Now, again, you don't want to just jump on some bandwagon, some trend or something that is just because it's trendy, unless it's relevant, right? So don't do this just because you can. Make sure that it fits in line with some brand values or your mission or something that is actually attached to your business. Don't just do it because it feels good to do it because it's trendy. So many businesses fall over in this scenario. We've touched on the Bud Light one many times in previous episodes where they did this and failed miserably. There are many other examples of where brands have gone, that's really cool, let's show up there. And it's like, well, hang on a second, we don't want to see you here. And I actually haven't brought this up in the whole episode, which is a bit surprising and so late in the episode. But if a big brand like a bank comes to you and says, we want to support your local community and blah, 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 you'll take their money, but you will feel like you're being sold to. You know that they're doing it purely for a reason that is awareness for them to get more business from you, right?
Yeah.
But if you're the local, obviously you don't have a local bank thing, but if it was, I'll use the example again. If you had the local bank branch manager come down, right, you will feel better about it. If it was a CEO of that bank
sending an email, but if it was an email sent.
No, but if the CEO of that company came to the footy game and then tried to handball around with the kids and, you know, show a bit of love, right? You'd be like, hang on a second, what's going on here? But if it was the local branch manager, you'd believe it a little bit more because you know that when you go down to the branch, you're going to be able to talk to that person, right?
Yeah.
Like the moment the event finishes, you know that CEO is going to be untouchable.
Yeah, that was the first and last you saw of him.
Yeah, exactly, right? So it's a pretty broad example, but it's just an example of where the local branch manager is someone who's human. It's there. You will do business with them on a daily or weekly or monthly basis, so you want to see them. Where the CEO comes down to hang out with you, you're not sure why he's there. You're not 100% sure what's going on. There's going to be a lot of mistrust with that behavior.
Correct. Out of the blue. Yeah.
Exactly. Right. So just think about it. But when it comes to local causes, think about whether it's like I talked about every single business I work with is in your local area. Is there a football club, a community event, something you can get involved with as a small sponsorship, a donation, if depending on what products you have, can you gift it? Can you do something just to raise awareness of what you're doing in that local community? Because I guarantee it'll resonate for years to come if you can do it. But make sure that it's something that's going to be relevant and you know the outcome for your business. Like I've had businesses do the wrong thing by putting thousands and thousands of dollars into this activity, and got no return. And the reason being is that they just didn't think about the next step or why people wanted to see their brand or their product or their service. You've got to make sure that it's got some tangible, next step that you can make people connect the dots and go, well, they were really good to us. Maybe we should buy from them. Get that.
That's a very interesting approach to it. The example that comes to mind, and I'm talking about my personal experience. So this stuff actually works. So that you all watching this know that this is not just blabber and copy on screen. This actually works. My personal experience repeatedly is that when I align and give out of my heart, call it karma, call it law of attraction. If you're spiritual, very good. If you're not, just listen to this because it will probably tell you there's something more to giving based on values and aligning based on values than just for the sake of business purposes. So some time ago, this ties into my own experience as a person. When I was growing up, I was bullied a fair amount. In school, I was a bit different. And kids can be a little bit brutal when they see somebody different. And bullying is a little bit a part of my story. I didn't let it define me, but it happened on a regular basis that I had to defend myself physically or was attacked physically. And later in life, especially when I came to Australia, at some point, I was approached by an intern that was working on a social media campaign for an anti-bullying foundation. Interestingly enough, I aligned with the values and I said, I'm more than happy to contribute with my time. So I don't have money, but I will gladly contribute with my time. It turns out that the time was much more worth for them because I built the entire image for the campaign, posters, tickets, branding for the event, and it turned into a hundreds of $1,000s payback for them or return for them, because they had such professionalism demonstrated throughout their offline and online materials. Interestingly enough, the CEO then loved this work so much that he got in touch with me personally, and that led to further 1-2 years down the line, other business opportunities. All this to say that when you do it from a place of integrity and true alignment, it's almost inevitable that it doesn't come back to you in some way, shape, or form.
That's right. Yeah, for sure. And all those bullies out there that did give Sim a hard time, I'd love to catch up with you right now because
let's talk now.
He's not this little weedy dude anymore. I love it.
He's not the blonde bowl cut anymore.
No. Look, again, we're going to finish on this one about relating and trustworthy brand image. So if you can find a way to communicate your values in missions and be authentic about it with the interactions and communications and the way you do it, it's going to build that brand into an image that is genuine, relatable, and trustworthy. So I don't think we need to go too hard on everything on that because we've really highlighted everything in that throughout the episode we've got. But if you've got a mission and a direction you want to go and you've got values and you can find something out there that matches that, that's either an event or a local community thing or something you can get involved with, do it, because it's just going to come back in spades, because people are going to see that you believe in this and you're here showing up at this event that just happens to believe in the same things. It's going to look genuine. Where if, like I said to you, you're a bank and you're doing a community cause that's for, say, trying to get out of debt or do something like that, you know that the bank's only there because you're in debt and they want you to be the loans from them, right? So it's pretty obvious that connection. But if it's something of genuine belief, then expose it in a good way. Don't be shy about it. Go out strong, hard, and really show why you're doing what you're doing, because it'll resonate with the audience. Yes, Sim.
That's it. Let's get our coffee.
Time to get coffee. Yep. So look, authenticity this is our coffee cup moment. We like to talk about the fact that authenticity is a branding. It's crucial because it builds trust, credibility with the consumers who have an increasing value in transparency and genuineness over any polished marketing that we do. So authenticity builds brands that create a deeper emotional connection by sharing real stories and experiences, leading to a stronger customer loyalty and engagement. Ultimately, showcasing the human side of your business differentiates your brand from the crowded market and fosters long-term relationships with yourself and them. So, guys, don't just do it for the fun of it. Do it because it's real, because it's going to have some real impact. And you will find these days, if you do it, it'll just pay back in spades. And I love your example. If you do it for the right reasons, because you've got a passion for it or a real understanding of where the audience you're talking to is coming from, it may not be them that buys from you. It may not be them that comes back to you, but it's them that will lead to other opportunities, because they may know somebody that needs what you're talking about, will know about it. And because they've got this passionate understanding of who you are, they will tell others about it. And that person hearing that message will hear that passion, will hear that authenticity, and as you said, it'll pay back in spades. And we don't know what that spades back will be, but it will come back to you in some way because of that authenticity out there. You can lie and cheat and do all that kind of stuff for as long as you can, but eventually it will burn you.
It goes up in smoke. Yeah, it always goes up in smoke. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so look, we're going to move on to the fact that if anything we talked about today did resonate with you, but you're not sure how to find your authentic self or how to keep it real, then please book a discovery session with us. We'd like to better understand your business and assess the state of your brand, your goals, and where your brand needs to be. How do you go about it? Look, we've got a 3-step process to this. We'd love you to talk about our brand guardianship program, where we do the discovery call and talk about those things that we just said, really assessing where you need to be. And then we find a program that's going to work for you to deliver on what is best for your business, determining what goals and plans need to be put in place. And look, to be honest, we know that once you've got it in place, you can't just do it on your own. You need us to work with you. So we've got an onboarding and coaching platform that we work with, where we meet with you regularly, assess where you're at, and keep you staying focused on amplifying your brand. So please book us in. We'd love to have a chat with you, have a discovery session to see where we fit into your big picture. So thank you, everybody, for joining us today. It's been great to be authentic, keep it real, and talk about things
keep it real.
Yeah. So look forward to seeing you next time, and looking forward to ways to amplify your brand. Sim, what do people need to do?
Keep it real. I love that.
How can they keep it real? Where do we want them to keep it real?
Well, you can tell us where you're watching this from. Drop us a like, follow us on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram. Let us know where you're typing from and what was the takeaway that you had from today. Yep,
looking forward to it, guys. Until next week. Actually, I think we can give away next week's topic.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Yes. All right, let's do that. Extended period. Yes.
just quickly, do you want to just quickly talk about next week what we may be talking about?
Let me quickly grab that. So basically, we're going to talk about innovative visual design elements. We've talked about trends. They come and they go, but it's useful to know, at least to have a pulse on what is currently a visual expression, a visual language, so you can try and have a somewhat of a fluidity in that language. And visually, that means understanding how your brand can communicate with those elements that we will be talking about. I'm looking very forward to this because it's an area close to my heart.
Yep. No. So if you've got some visuals that you're not sure how to go about them and what's trending and what's not trending and how do you go about them, next week is your episode to join us and explore this. Looking forward to it. Otherwise, have a great week amplifying your brand, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Take care, everyone.
Bye.